Jordan, what's happening, man?
What's up, Sam? How you doing on this fine quarantine day?
I'm good. Staying clean, staying healthy, locked in, very focused. But more so, very excited to have our guest on today. Our guest today is a Billboard Power player, Sean Famoso. He is one of the co-founders, and he is the head of marketing at Love Renaissance, also known as LVRN. LVRN, Love Renaissance, is a management company and also has a record label component via a joint venture with Interscope. They have an incredible roster. They manage and help represent people like Black, Summer Walker, Boogie. The list goes on. I think they have a very progressive sound, a very unique model. They've received a lot of acclaim. And I think it's really incredible to have Sean on today and really talk through a lot of the ways in which they built their company, how they approach marketing, storytelling. We also spent a lot of time talking about some of the different market changes and opportunities amidst this kind of COVID pandemic, and how we can adapt and be progressive and use this as an opportunity to actually grow our businesses. So really enjoyed learning about everything he had to say. What do you think, Jordan?
Yeah, man, I thought it was great. I mean, I've been watching LVRN for years and years, just see the things that they've been able to do and grow into. I'm glad we kind of get to dive into that journey a little bit. Some of it was intentional, but some of it wasn't. But I think, from the core of this conversation, it goes to just show that, if you're passionate about something, and he's very passionate about marketing and his artists and his team, then, they can make it work and do whatever they feel is necessary for the next step of their artist career. So I think it's a super dope interview, and I think people will learn from it, especially small business owners in the music industry and the management and record label sector, but also artists themselves.
For sure. Well, can't wait to get into it. One other small note. We're really excited, Jordan and I and Noah, Music Business Podcast team, have been working on a lot of stuff and just constantly trying to find ways to really just create value for you guys. So really excited to announce that next Thursday, we'll be launching a music business podcast community on Patreon. We'll kind of create a Discord group where you guys will be able to network with each other. We'll be curating different job listings in the music industry, doing exclusive AMAs, giving access to show notes, as well as letting you guys submit different questions for upcoming guests. So can't wait for that to officially come out. In the meantime, if you want to go to musicbusiness.com/community, you can sign up to be the first to know there. So check it out, musicbusinesspodcast.com/community. But without any further ado, let's get into this week's episode with Sean Famoso. Sean, what's happening, man? How you doing?
I can't call it. I guess I'm just like everybody else. You say you're good, but deep down inside, you're not. But
right.
I guess my real question was like, I feel like this whole quarantine shit's been similar to the New Year, where like you don't know how far after January 1st are you supposed to stop saying Happy New Year at the end of every email, or at the beginning of every time you bump into somebody. So I feel like it's the same with the quarantine, like with the whole like, how you holding up, what you've been occupying yourself with. I'm like, we're 2 months in at this point. Life is just different. So
yeah, right.
It seems too like a lot of the latest reports when it comes to like the live event side, because that's definitely going to be one of the last things to kind of open up as they start to lighten up these lockdowns. Might not even start back until like mid-fall 2021.
Right. And I think it's really tough, especially for artists that were on their 0 to 60 path. Like there is superstars, there's stars, there's rising stars, and then there's on the watch list. And I feel like it's incredibly hard being on the watch list and also being a rising, talent at this moment, because, touring not only is, a great source of income, but the opportunity to be in front of, your growing fan base is needed is all we've ever known, from the beginning of what we would consider like the modern music industry. It's all we've ever known as, a main source of being an artist. So to have to figure that part out right now is obviously, tough. And especially even, for us and all of our acts, we have some more established acts, but we also have some developing acts that we have to change our approach. And, I think, it is what it is right now.
For sure. I mean, when to dive deeper into that too, it's like how has the approach been changing? What I mean, when you look at how you're focusing on developing acts, helping them grow, drive streams, obviously it looks night and day compared to what it was a couple months ago. But I mean, what does the approach look like for you right now?
Well, I mean, I think, obviously, the whole team and everybody obviously has their superpowers of where they focus a lot of their energy. But I think, the blessing naturally is when you're really happy, you listen to music. When you're really sad, you listen to music. When you're in the car, you listen to music. When you're quarantined at home, you listen to music. So I feel like the need for content, the need for music is, if not the same, higher than it's ever been. I think that the approach to live, for instance, I've been kicking myself in the ass for the last month because I had an idea a while ago. Nobody cares about ideas that you never did. If somebody did it first, but stuff my story. But Summer never really enjoyed being on tour, touring process. So I was like, bro, if we created a tour, a living room tour in which we could what's the word? Geo-lock city-specific places, and Summer can literally perform in Miami on Monday, LA on Tuesday, London on Wednesday, and the only people that can enter that, that link would be people that are in that city, obviously because we're geo-locking. Granted, Zoom has been amazing to be able to provide certain, certain ideas, but I feel like the element that nobody yet has been able to master with, because obviously, as soon as this quarantine thing happens, it turns into performing on Instagram Live, and within a week and a half, you're like, all right, it's hard to interesting.
Right.
I feel like what makes a show interesting is the experience of getting your ticket, waiting in line, buying merch, da-da-da-da-da. I think Travis has obviously smashed in that regard with what he did with Fortnite recently. But yeah, I mean, I'm kind of rambling, but I think the main thing for us as a company is unlearning everything that we have, especially from the standpoint as far as marketing. Us being very detail oriented when it comes to our rollouts and the way that we especially for our newer artists to be presented initially to the world. There's a lot of touch points. We always say that we need to have something that, is sonically pleasing, visually pleasing, and be able to activate in real life and on the internet. So the fact that you're taking away our real life interaction and being able to actually touch people, us, I guess, compensating for that is the challenge. But, I think for me, I spent the first 2 weeks of this whole quarantine thing just waiting for it to be over so I can get back to my normal life, how I do shit. And then soon realizing, damn, I'm actually either going to be proactive about this or reactive about this.
Right.
And, our company, we pride ourselves on kind of being first to things rather than last to things or in the mix of things. So I think soon after that point, I really, mentally check back in the sense of, all right, I just have to unlearn what I know that I'm good at and reapproach rolling out artists and projects and ideas in a different way than we've ever done before, because everybody has to.
Yeah, it's almost as if you just have to change your idea of reality. And then given this new reality, what are the next steps that we can do if this is the only reality we have,
You can only so long, and I feel like I becoming part of the problem of when things get back up and running, when things get back, who knows? So I'm always very big on things that change don't affect you for 12 to 18 months. We don't really know what the effect of this is going to be because you know the immediate effect, but it's kind of you don't really know what the ripple effect of this is going to be. So if I don't work as hard right now or try to work in the same way that I only know how to work, I'll realize in 12 months how much of a mistake that was. Rather than setting ourselves up for a positive ripple effect rather than, oh shit, we should have changed our content strategy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think it's critical to do that and be proactive and move quick. Cause I think even if you look at a lot of different like financial experts, they are literally comparing this and projecting that this will be worse than, and not to get like too downward, but simply from a place of like proactive action and thoughtfulness, they're projecting that this will be more similar to the Great Depression in the 30s than the 2008 stock market crash. So I think for us, how are we going to be proactive, moving now, being first, I think is really interesting. I mean, one thing, there's actually like people that are there's like an article on Bloomberg about people are paying real money to get into virtual Zoom nightclubs, but there's been this like rise of like ticketed online events. And at the end of the day, it's like, I don't know if that's the answer, but I think per your point, like people always want music, like people want access and some level of exclusive access to their favorite artists. So I think there is like a lot of unique opportunities to unlock something new here. So let's move fast and keep our fingers crossed.
I think also a lot of businesses are going to be born out of this. So in my opinion, at least, I was reading an article, I was reading a book called Obstacle is the Way. And it said over, half of the Fortune 500 companies were built or found their peak either during a recession or depression. So it's almost like in addition to the companies that are being built now, how do we position ourselves for the companies that are, companies already, how do we position ourselves like these young and nimble companies that are going to be coming for us after this is all over,
Yeah. It's not like, to your point, like, in great turmoil, only two things happen. Like you go under or you rise to the occasion, as corny as it sounds. But I think there's no lack of intelligence and wit and access to information out there for, some of the brightest ideas to come about. And, I think like anybody else would want to be a part of it like we do. So.
1,000%. So, we'd love to go back to your roots prior to joining and helping build and co-found Love Renaissance. Can you talk a little bit about just how what first sparked your interest in music and how did you end up joining the music industry?
Man, I never had an overt passion for the music industry. I think, especially retroactively thinking about it, my passion has always been experiential and just making people fall in love with ideas that I may have or concepts that I may be thinking about. That goes as far back as when we started throwing parties. I think throwing a party is in itself the epitome of marketing, because in theory you're just trying to get the same people to come to the same place, the same time, on the same day, every week. The DJ's probably going to be the same. The atmosphere is probably going to be similar, but one way or another, you have to change the concept of what you feel like you're giving the crowd or the people week by week to keep them interested. And I feel like that skill or just that innate quality that I may have has helped for music and would help for movies and would help for TV. So yeah, no, I think the urge or want to be able to bring people together and just find a way to tap into, hold people's attention is the through line that I have with everything that we do with LVRN. It's not. I've always said music is for me the atmosphere. I mean, not the atmosphere, but yeah, no, it's the atmosphere. It's the soundtrack to life. You wake up and you want to hear something. The same thing you wake up to is not the same thing you want to go to sleep to. So you change what you're listening to. That's why I would say artists you can't be everything to everybody. Somebody won't only hear you in the gym. Somebody only wants to hear you when they make love. Somebody only wants to hear you when you're sad. So instead of trying to be everything to everybody, find find what part of somebody's life soundtrack that you think that you are best at providing them. But yeah, I mean, for me, it's never been a music thing, but, starting in high school into college, throwing parties, bringing people together. And, in Atlanta, naturally, I guess, proximity to like celebrities and people coming up in the music industry, if you're throwing the best parties, naturally you rub shoulders with them and you develop relationships. And, you turn 20 years old, you're like, damn, am I going to be a promoter for the rest of my life? It's it's like going to the NBA. Like, there's only a few guys that are like making money for real. Well, actually, that's everybody in the NBA makes money. Well, yeah, it's far and few between for a super successful 60-year-old promoter. So I think Tunde and myself at the time, who were like kind of like knee deep in throwing parties, found a smooth transition with a couple of friends that we had who were producing at the time. And, we tell the story all the time. But yeah, I mean, through a handful of scenarios and triumphs and efforts, we linked up with the right people at the right time. And, the rest is the beginning of history.
So I was actually listening to Ramia's episode on Insta Reel recently. And they asked her, why did you get into party promoting? And she said, she took a class on Diddy when she was at NYU. And she felt like the best way to get into the music industry was to do it the same way, Scooter Braun did it, Diddy did it, which was throwing parties first. And that kind of got her foot in the door. Yeah, exactly. You did it. So do you think for people wanting to come into the music industry and bump these shoulders with these people that they should be looking forward to throwing parties initially? Do you think that's a route that people should actually aim for? Or do you think it's just kind of the byproduct of, being a party promoter?
I was with Ramya at 9:00 this morning working out in the park.
That's crazy.
But I think there's different personalities in the music industry. Diddy isn't. Oh man, there's a book, and I always talk about this book that. No, this isn't in the Outliers. This is in The Tipping Point, and it speaks about there's mavens. There's like three types of people. One of which is that type of person that will remember your name 10 years from now after meeting you for 30 seconds. Those are like the Diddies of the world that are literally phone filled with contacts. They don't necessarily do business in the office. They're the one that rather take you to get a drink than you to, the boardroom. And their relationships in business are equally built off of their personal life and how they kind of approach creating opportunity. And I feel like that is the world that Tunde and myself, obviously somebody like Ramya. Now you obviously have those very well put together, incredibly analytical people that are equally as or have been as successful in the music industry, but their approach is totally different. Like somebody like Tunji stays in the studio. Like they're very they don't leave the studio. I don't go to studios. Best place in the world. 90% of them don't have windows. I just can't do it. But we equally share our ability to find peace that the music industry needs or are missing or whatever the case may be. But I feel like in theory, maybe the easiest approach is throwing parties because, being around enough people, meeting enough people, making a name for yourself, being able to go somewhere and bump into people is ultimately what kind of gives you a nice notoriety to go with like your work ethic. But being somebody that's always in the studio, always looking for artists, or always, on the research shit is a little bit harder to get recognized, especially recognized for things that you do right, because sometimes credit gets lost in translation. So I think it's definitely a way, but I don't think it's the way, because if there's a bunch of people just like me, the company wouldn't work either. We all be
Right.
Can you,
right.
And then that's awesome. I mean, and fun to hear this. Can you dive deeper into kind of like building Love Renaissance and how it kind of started? You mentioned just kind of came together with the right group. how did it how did it really evolve into what it is today? And I mean, if you could just speak to different like areas of focus along the road, maybe any like big kind of turning points.
Yeah, I mean, I think one, it's like first and foremost, it's like not even on the like super spiritual thing, but it's like shout out to God first, because it really makes no sense that this puzzle found itself without, without too much effort. But all of us meeting in either high school or college, us all being first generation immigrants, which we also think is a commonality that we share for a reason. But we all have unique superpowers that we've kind of honed in on over the years. I think in the beginning, we were all doing everything. Yo, what, you need help over there? Okay, I'm going over there. You can't make it to the show? Okay, I'll go over there. Did you see this email? If you didn't see this email, I'll just answer it for you. Like now, after realizing that you can have that level of attention to everything when you only have one artist, or when there's only one thing going on, or there's only one priority. But when you're building a full-fledged company with multiple artists and multiple endeavors, and there's endorsement stuff going on over here, there's TV and film stuff going on over here, there's agency stuff over here. Everybody has to really be more of a team player and get as good as they can at what they do best, and trust their partners to do the rest. So again, like I handle the majority of the marketing stuff, brand stuff, the experiential activation stuff. Tunde is incredibly hands-on when it comes to like the artist management, the high-level business stuff, maintaining the relationship with our Interscope partners, our, agency partners, and everybody all around, all the DSPs. Justice is our A&R, but, he's like just like the cultural, savant, in a sense, ear is always to the ground and just naturally has an amazing palette for music, and it's like, most just like genuine form. Carlin is the eyes of the company. All of our visuals, photo shoots, videos, overall just like creative output when it comes to sight is it's his vision. Junior's the most level-headed and organized individual that we have. He handles all of the touring, all of the HR. At the end of the day, like we have at any given point, we have 18 people on staff, and then another, if somebody's on the road, there's 40 people that need to get paid, So, Junior you would never know that he's handling the lives of so many people and still finds time to answer Mario, can you cash app this person real quick text, So
for sure. When it comes to can you dive deeper into your like just when it comes to marketing artists? What do you really focus on when it comes to really trying to help build and grow and convert audiences around the artists?
Man, I mean, I think for us, we don't tend to sign artists that we don't feel like we could tell a story for. Going back to my statement about music being the soundtrack to life, we just kind of try to find exactly where we feel like this artist, even in the early stages, because where you start isn't going to be where you finish, but finding a way to put that artist and their story in front of people so that they can care about them at the same rate that they care about the music. I think that is the hardest and easiest part. It's the part that comes most natural to us, and especially most natural to me, because I know how I gravitate towards new artists, new brands, I was at the supermarket with my roommate the other day, and I put a box of Crest toothpaste in my cart, and he took it out and he put a box of Sensoderm in the cart. He's like, this one's way better. I'm like I was like going with it for a second, but I'm like, man, Crest commercials are just better, bro. Like that's me knowing that I'm brainwashed, but accepting it and also having like whatever connection that I have to my toothpaste that I didn't know was as strong as it was to ultimately take another competitor, whether better or not, out of the cart and replace it with my lackluster toothpaste that was to me better, is the amount of importance that I put on it. Because again, I'm knee deep in this shit all the time. So if I'm knee deep in it, then who am I to not take advantage of being able to provide somebody else that level of like connection? And because I don't have to focus on getting the music ready, getting the business done, getting the tour ready, I can focus on how and why you should fall in love, and you know, help construct the calendar for what that process looks like that fits into the artist's overall career.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I couldn't ask for a better role.
That makes a lot of sense. Could you, put some of that into context, into some of the one or two of the artists that you like? Any specific examples or stories come to mind when it's like taking that framework and really figuring out how to really unpack and tell this specific story, or really enlist fans in this journey?
Yeah, I guess most recently, Summer Walker's album was really interesting and a really dope challenge, because she is an interesting person in general. And, you know, she doesn't necessarily love to be out and about. She doesn't want to do hours and hours of press. But she has such a deep connection with her fans, and her fans resonate and relate to her on such a high level that you can't deny having to service them. So I think for her album's rollout, you know, one, the music has such a nostalgic sense to it, in the sense that it just kind of felt like the R&B that a lot of us grew up on. So even from a visual standpoint, us creating these commercials that felt like, you know, those 2 a.m. in the morning compilation albums. Like, and I know you remember this one, then it'll play like 30 seconds of an old like Diana Ross song. And obviously, I think the use of Community, which is the company that provides phone numbers for artists to be able to use and stay in contact with fans, text them and call them, and you can, you know, text all the girls one day, text all the boys one day. If it's your birthday, I can send you a personal text because it popped up that it's your birthday. That's something that we use to our advantage, because it was easy for Summer to be able to communicate at a mass level with information that she, you know, wanted to push out. So using that phone number as a through line the entire time was incredibly dope. And shout out to Maria Rubin, who has literally executed some of our most insane ideas from day one. But I think one of the ones that take the cake for, you know, her input is the phone booths that we had. So basically, we wanted to find, again, like we haven't been big fans of album listenings in most in the normal sense of what they usually are, because 9 times out of 10 it's fucking, you know, 200 douchebags in a room talking over the artist's music while, you know, drinking free, you know, tequila, sponsored by.
Sign me up. No, I'm playing.
He's like, that sounds so cool.
For the artists, you can just watch the pain on their face as, you know, they, you know, talk their heart out and talk about what a song means to them, plays 10 seconds of it, then you just hear the conversations engulf the music. And, you know, we've done that too many times to realize that it's not effective. So we had an idea that Maria came up with to have these phone booths. These phone booths, we put them in 5 different cities. Did we do London? I don't know. We did Atlanta, Toronto, Houston or Dallas, Chicago, and a couple more. And there were these pink, colorful phone booths. And when you go up to the phone booth, you pick it up and you follow the prompt to ultimately get to hear the album through the headset of the phone booth prior to the album coming out. So obviously you're attacking fans, which number one is always amazing, because sometimes I feel like we over-service media instead of the fans. And this was an amazing opportunity for even media to have to come to this phone booth in order to get the information. And then, so I think that went super well. And it was a way that Summer didn't have to be there in order to get it done. We had another idea called, because the album was called Over It, and the whole concept was just being over, past lovers, past relationships, moments in your life, over a job, over a coworker, whatever the case. And, we're really big on mental health. And I don't know if you guys ever heard of smash rooms. And what a smash room is more or less, if you're upset about something, you just need to go get some anger, some tension out in this way. You go in this room, they give you a couple of old TVs, a VCR, some glasses, some china, and they give you a sledgehammer, and you get to just go ham on it. So we found a way to recreate the idea of a smash room and give fans the opportunity to, get out some aggression to the sounds of Summer Walker. So imagine hearing like this amazing R&B album play. Women and men have like these like pink jumpsuits, goggles, and sledgehammers, and we took it to London. And we got this huge warehouse. We had cars in there. We had washing machines, record players, refrigerators. We literally spent thousands and thousands and thousands of junk to be able to give to the fans for them to just smash through it. But yeah, I mean, like, so I say all that to say none of that had anything to do with the music, but it all had to do with the way people are able to receive it. Like, they're able to receive the context. So when they listen to the music, they have the roadmap. It's almost like we give somebody the roadmap ahead of time. So when you listen to the music, you understand why it sounds the way it does, why certain songs are there, why certain features are there. And again, like, we play to what our artists' attributes are. If I know you don't like going out during the daytime, like, we're not going to do anything during the daytime. So, and I feel like finding that steady. And a beautiful thing is all of our artists trust us so much to not fuck their brand up or do anything that we know they naturally wouldn't, that the majority of them make it very easy for us to get our shit off. So yeah.
What do you think some of the things you should do early on? Because I know you said you guys obviously spent a lot of money on the marketing campaign, and it sounds great. But what are some of the things you guys did early on or do with your developing acts, or you think independent artists or independent managers can first thinking about how to market their artists or themselves or brand their artists and themselves?
Well, I always say the nucleus of any amazing idea is free. Money should only be able to magnify an idea, but it shouldn't really stop you from executing the idea. And I think that's something that we had to learn, because once we start having funding to be able to do everything we ever wanted to do, sometimes we fucked it up because we thought what we were missing was money, but then we left the basics of what we had to do before we had the money. So I guess my advice to up and coming managers or artists that have to market themselves is, you can do a lot yourself. Finding a team that believes in you is incredibly important, but it's not the only thing you need. You have to know that support comes along the way, and you can't expect it to be there from jump. And I think that goes back to throwing parties, because nobody just wants to listen to your mixtape. But if you're the gatekeeper of getting me in this party or not getting me in this party, and I come to your party every week, and then a week later you hit me like, oh, I got this artist, you should check them out. You have to play to the human nature of people and what people really want, and what people want of you. Before you're this big time executive, they want to get in your party. So now that you have them on that hook, you can introduce them something that they didn't know that they want. And then if whatever product that you show them is actually good, then now you've just elevated your relationship from party promoter to party promoter plus some. And I think that is the approach that we've always taken with just like our business career, is we have an atmosphere that's, family-oriented, lovable, playable, have parties over here, execute over here. But we always make sure that what our agenda is so on point that when we try to introduce you to something new, you kind of have to respect it.
It's all amazing. When it comes to the stories of like finding, I mean, you guys have a really impressive roster. Can you talk about how you came across some of the artists on your roster?
Yeah. Anybody in particular?
Black and Summer Walker. We can start there.
Black was introduced to us. Granted, again, this goes back to partying because, you know, the party scene and the party promoting community is a close-knit one that everybody knows each other, whether you like each other or don't, or he charges too little at his parties. And it's like just, it's a high school in itself. But one of our really good friends, Trizzy, and also Diamond, who to this day, you know, works really closely with Six, brought Six to us because we were just kind of known as the young guys with, you know, an understanding for the music industry, a couple of stripes here and there, but more importantly, like we were like easy to touch. We're at home, like we're approachable. And we've had a relationship with Trizzy and Diamond for, you know, at this point, 15 plus years. They introduced Black to us. Black was in a really bad position as far as like, you know, his prior deal. And we just took our time, you know, like, we made sure he was straight, his living conditions were straight, gave him a studio to record in. And all the meanwhile, us figuring out how to help, you know, get him in a legal position that would allow for him to, you know, be the artist that he really, you know, needed to be. And, you know, we just provided the resources and, you know, the opportunity for us to ultimately be able to work with him in a full capacity. And that's been dope. Summer is an interesting story. We have a studio in Atlanta called LVRN Studios. Our studio manager at the time, her name is Summer Walker. One day she was Googling herself and she found Summer Walker. She ended up talking to Summer Walker, introducing us to Summer Walker, and, you know, the story's history.
Wow. That's crazy. I'm about to look up my name right now. Shit, maybe I'll find my next business partner.
That's awesome. When it came to I mean, similar to when you kind of share the story of like building Love Renaissance, I mean, what were some of the biggest turning points like in Black's career and then in like Summer's? Like if you kind of, because obviously a lot of people that are listening are just trying to figure out the ways to break, and obviously there's no one size fits all answer, but really curious about the big inflection points and areas of focus early on that you feel have led to the most results.
I mean, I give Black a lot of his own credit because his connection with his fans is so close, and he pays such close attention to where he is in his career at any given time. He was the first artist that we ever met that was buying his own Facebook ads before we even started working with him. Like he has an understanding of that outside of any artist, you know, I've yet to meet. So I think working with him in general, everything was a turning point just because it was never any conflict in the way that we viewed how to make sure that we get more and more fans. But yeah, I mean, obviously, like, you know, there's a couple of songs that break you through so you have the eyes and ears of everybody. I think Free Black obviously did exactly what he needed to do. His second album, East Atlanta Love Letter, did the same thing. I think we did a really good job at telling the story and kind of giving people all of the ingredients to go have conversations of their own about, you know, a handful of questions that we made really public and really dire. But yeah, and you know, I think for Summer was just like a freak of nature in like the I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? in the sense of how I backtrack how this shit all blew up. And I say a freak of nature in the sense of like how it all came together. Because Summer was the first incredibly polarizing act that we've ever had. Like, just the idea of where she comes from, what her, old, occupation used to be, but the fact that she plays the guitar, she's super pretty, but she has face tats. Like, she was like a recipe for like, the internet. It's almost like we used to say that she's like the little Uzi of R&B. Actually, that still holds true. But I think it was really easy for us because she naturally gained a lot of attention. She was like the first artist that like Shade Room would just like naturally post. And granted, like as toxic as that that some of these social media, outlets can be, you do need them to like help get out your message. And I feel like Summer was the first artist that people naturally kind of helped us get that message out. And yeah, I mean, the turning point is us putting out quality music every single time and meeting the expectations of what the media and fans demanded of her. And I think, importantly, I think Summer was and is our first female artist, and us as a company that the founders, not by design, but are all male, we had to really unlearn and empower and embrace a lot of our female staff in a way that we never had to before or never knew before, just because naturally I might think, no, let's use this color. And they're like, no, women hate that color. But one simple mistake could just fuck this whole campaign up. So it was really cool. And, I really appreciated just like taking the backseat to a lot of things, just because I feel like, I wasn't going to be the expert for a lot of decisions. And it was dope to really see that we have people around us that can be the experts when needed.
Right. I want to get a little bit into the JV you guys have, the partnership that you guys have, because that seems like a pretty growing business model with me when I was at EQT. We just had Will Zombak on, who did that actually, several years ago. But it seems like this management label hybrid is becoming a little bit more and more popular as it makes sense. In my opinion, I think that probably happens because I think management over the years has taken the brunt of a lot of the costs of a traditional record label. So it just kind of makes sense to form that partnership. But when do you think it makes sense for a company, and when did it make sense for LVRN to kind of look at the situation that you guys had and think, maybe we should get some other partners on this?
I think for us, it was simple because we knew that ultimately our business model before having the label was find artists, invest in them, everything that we can, blow them up, get the attention of a label, and then in reality, you kind of give away everything you work for when you sign to a label but aren't able to participate the same way that they participate. So it's kind of like the hard work, and then you just, took the back seat. And granted, the way we operate as management is almost like a label. Like, we're a part of everything.
Right.
So, Joey IE and John Janik and Berman over at Interscope, they were tired of seeing us come to their office, or they were actually tired of chasing our artists that they never got a chance to sign. And at a certain point, they realized that, okay, maybe the magic is as much in these guys as it is in the artists that they are finding and developing. And I mean, for us, because, granted, we had enough money and resources and relationships to do everything that we were doing with Black at the time from an independent standpoint. But we know that our overall goals are so much bigger than being able to provide resources for one artist or two artists, but it's, to own the damn building. So I think, everybody, sometimes people are too concerned with owning 100% of nothing. And for I think us, there's already five of us as co-founders, right? So that's already a model that a lot of people are confused about. But I think we understand what everybody or what a partner is able to contribute, and
Hmm.
how 10% of $1 billion is way more than 100% of 10 million. So
Hmm.
I think we all understand that model incredibly clear. Um, Having somebody like Interscope was an easy answer. So when should other people do it? I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. When the dynamic of having five co-founders is definitely like really interesting. I mean, has at face value, it seems like that could cause a lot of issues when it comes to giving key decision makers power without necessarily needing any sort of like consent from all. Like, how have you created a structure and kind of, I mean, probably not, there's no like formal code of conduct, or maybe there is, but like when it comes to preventing the issue of having to get everybody sign off on everybody's decision, how has that evolved over time to a point where you guys are all able to effectively like swim in your own lanes to boil the ocean?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think in the very beginning it was easy and hard, and easy and hard in the end, because I say that because when there's only one decision to be made, we can all five of us can argue over, like, because we're all fucking creators at the end of the day. We'll argue over, like, if it should be blue or if it should be red for 3 hours.
Right.
But that was all we had to make that day, so we have time. We don't have that time to argue over the same things, but what we've developed over those years in between is a level of trust that I don't have to be a part of every decision. I know he's good at that, and he's going to do what he needs to do. Granted, huge decisions. Some decisions are bigger than others. Sometimes we just want to counsel each other before we make a decision in our own realm. Like sometimes it may have nothing to do with what Tunde will do on a normal day, or Justice or Carlin or Junior, but I might just want to be like, yo, what do you think of this before I pull the trigger? So I think there's such a friendship there, and a and confidence that we have in each other, that there is no, granted, the decisions now, there's extra zeros that come behind the decision. So the decisions are heavier, but I feel like our rapport with each other is so grand that it doesn't really feel it. We have taken on, like, we do like group therapy though, like every couple of weeks.
Oh,
Um,
that's pretty cool.
That's amazing.
That's pretty awesome. Yeah.
yeah, like, and it's not because shit was falling apart and like you guys need to get it together. No, it's more like we spend so much time taking care of our bodies when we go to the gym, watching the food that we eat. But the same level of effort we don't put on piecing back our brain and our mental. Um, so yeah. So for us, I think it's really good to just have our therapist that we talk to all the time. And we talk to him individually, talk to her individually, or even as a group all the time, and we'll do like 5 hours and just like get anything off our chest. Yo, I don't like how when you sent that text, did you mean the exclamation? You'll realize how small things can develop without context, and having such a safe place to speak to each other, and knowing that the ultimate goal for everybody is to leave out there even closer than you were when you got in there. It only makes you stronger. So
Right. That's dope. That's dope. I think mental health in the music industry is it's like an interesting topic, because I think a lot of people don't pay attention to it enough. I think, we can all it's an entrepreneurial space, so we can all grind for as long as we want to, what I mean, to get the things that we want. And I do think having that balance is important. Speaking of you guys all being, you said a little bit earlier, all you guys were first immigrants, right? First generation immigrants. And you guys opened a store in Nigeria, right?
yeah, no, it was in Ghana.
Oh, Ghana. So what went behind the decision to do that?
Yeah, so Justice and Junior are both Ghanaian, and I think for us, watching the globalization of like music, and especially Africa,
Mm,
finally on a commercial level having a footprint in music, in the music business as they should have for so much time, especially when we, in reference to the US, like you start to hear a lot more Afrobeat records. You
hmm
start more artists, like what used to be the Jamaican set in the club is now the Afrobeat set in the club, and it's so dope to see.
hmm
Uh, we want to make sure that that side of the world is respected and is given the same resources that we are taking from them or that we are participating in with them at the same rate. So it's kind of like, let's just not take music and not give back what makes the culture so cool.
hmm
And down to even just clothes, like like we have access to everything. Like if you're a Travis Scott fan, you can buy merch whenever you want. But shipping merch to West Africa doesn't really exist in form right now. So for us, it was us starting the relationship of being able to get the same level of textiles and clothing and merch and just dope independent brands, whether it be an independent designer that is based in Africa or an independent designer that's based in Atlanta or LA or New York or Chicago, and being able to have that central hub of community in Accra, Ghana, because the demand exists but the supply doesn't. So we just wanted to start that relationship, and we sold out of everything within like 4 hours during our pop-up. So
Wow.
It's crazy.
Tight.
Um, well, as we get towards the end here, one kind of last question on my end is, what do you feel separates good management companies from like great management companies? So like the top 1% versus the top 10%.
I don't know. Forgot what I was having a conversation with one of the guys not too long ago about. I think we were arguing about whether fuck I forgot, but anyway, I think the message of it was I don't think we're the best managers for everybody. We're good at what. So for me, the difference between like good and great is actually knowing what you do best and finding talent and finding people to help push that narrative rather than signing everything. Just
Mhm.
because you're the greatest manager doesn't mean that you can take every artist to the top.
hmm
And I think greatest managers are knowing what you can take to the top and what is better left for somebody else. And a lot of times management companies are too wrapped up in market share and, oh, that sounds kind of hot. Do you think you can take care of it? Okay, let's get that. And for us, as much as we've learned to not be as overly critical as as we've designed ourselves to be, I think we know what we're good at, and like those are the projects that we are wanting to be a part of because when we're in, we're 100% in, passion, heart, and resource. So yeah.
I love that. Makes a lot of sense, man. Jordan?
Yeah, bro.
Yeah, man. I
Any,
think that's it.
any
I mean,
last thoughts?
one last question that I kind of wanted to float by you, or I guess it's a concept, is that it seems like Love Renaissance, and Henny talked about this during his episode, is a little bit more of like a cultural incubator, and that you guys really take care of the artists and bring them from, sometimes in the beginning of their career, or most of the time from the beginning of their career to the peak of their career, as opposed to kind of throwing as much shit up against the wall as you can. So I guess, one, do you see, are there any other labels or management companies that you think do that in a similar way? And two, when you guys started doing that, 7 years ago, 6 years ago, 8 years ago, there weren't a lot of people there and there weren't a lot of companies like that. So what kind of made you guys take that route? As opposed to being like, yo, this is cool, let's give it a shot. This is cool, let's give it a shot. This is cool, let's give it a shot. As opposed to being like, let's be all. What you guys did do is let's be all in on these people that we really believe in. for as long as we need to get to them to where we want them to be and where they want themselves to be.
Yeah. I think sometimes we all try to sound like the genius and feel as if our plan was by design at all times. I think come to be now is us seeing the effect that we have on the culture and some of our just closest friends and tastemakers, how we're viewed, and we're like, oh shit, like we didn't know that. Since y'all care so much, okay, cool. They care, guys. All right, cool. Let's make sure that like we continue to build a world that is like worthy of people's fucking thoughts. I think as far as I think I see a lot of talent out here, like especially like executive talent, and I think for me it's really cool to see when we're able to get to a point that we are now putting people in position that have nothing to do with the immediate benefit of us. Like me hiring you to work at LVRN is cool, especially if you're great. But I can't hire everybody. But you know what? You should go take that job at Motown. You should go take that job at Spotify. You should go take that job at this label. And us just being like, of minorities for the most part, and especially a lot of the people that I want to see in position, I think it's more important to spread the eyes and ears all over the industry so that when it comes time that I need some help or you need some help, we know exactly who to talk to. And it's dope to see that the changing of guard happening with our closest friends and family. So, so there can be another LVRN. So, or another chairman of a label that looks just like me or just like you. And I think that is something that we've been a lot more obvious about, or a lot more I don't know the word
explicit
anymore.
about.
Nah, it's not explicit. Sounds like explicit though. A lot more intentional about. Jesus Christ, I got it. A lot more intentional about.
Amazing,
Awesome.
man. Well, super excited for everything you're cooking up, man. It's been fun to watch, and I'm sure it's still just the early days, man. I know you guys got a big mission and vision, and excited to see you guys accomplish it. So thank you so much for coming on today, man. It's been a true pleasure.
Yeah, man. Thank you, boss. Yo, man, I thought that was a great episode, dude. That was a great episode. I think we're knocking it out the park on these quarantine episodes, despite the distance between us and our guests. A few things that I liked in this episode. One was just the origin story is always great. How did LVRN come to be? I think that something that I think is a trend in the music industry is it's just party promoters and how they connect to the music industry. And we really got to dig into that a little bit deeper here. Another thing that I appreciate is that he spoke on mental health and how important mental health is just for him and his team, but also him and his artists. And how can we take what the artist gives us in terms of constraints in the example of Summer Walker and not trying to do an entire press day. How do we use that constraint and turn it into something innovative and positive, like putting her entire album in a phone booth in different cities across the world. I think he was innovative and showed that during the conversation, but also showed a really big importance on balance. And I thought that was something that I wasn't necessarily expecting to get from the conversation, but that I'm glad that we went. What do you think, Sam?
Yeah, man. I think Sean is a stand-up guy. I think what they've been able to build at Love Renaissance is incredible. Love their artists. Yeah, I mean, what stood out the most was really trying to create unique moments around the music. I know he spoke about some of the different activations, but really like pressing in a layer to think around what's unique about the music. What are the different stories you can tell? Focusing on artists that well. I think he made a really good call out around like we do what we do well, but they're not trying to service everybody. And I think if they did, then they probably wouldn't do as good of a job. So I think also really just loved hearing how they've developed a team dynamic that supports 5 co-founders. I think that's by conventional terms very something that'd be like, I don't know about that, but I think they've been able to make it work. And I think he did a good job at explaining how they've been able to really build out different swim lanes and internal trust so that people can kind of work and orchestrate together. So I really enjoyed it. Also, we want to start shouting out people that leave reviews. We're super grateful for the reviews, and the reviews definitely help us get this podcast in front of other people. So shout out Swissboy, SWISSBOY, the best to ever do it. Thank you for your review, and we'll be keeping an eye out. If you guys have other reviews, be sure to go check out Swissboy if you haven't already. So with that being said, thank you all so much. Super grateful for your continued support. See you next week.
See you guys next week.